Wait, I don't know if we're actually live.
We're live. It says live.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the A Spaces Book Club discussion. And I am hearing myself because, okay. We are going to be discussing Elatsoe by Darcie Little Badger. And I am here with Elise from the Petite Punk and Rishika. Rish, do you, by the way, how do you pronounce your name? Just to check.
You're right.
Rishika?
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and Rish, you don't have a channel, right?
I have Rishites on Twitter, and I'm mainly on Instagram at pasting pages.
Okay. So since this is our first book club discussion, I'm kind of nervous. So please bear with me when we go through the question. I think I'll start with, what did you rate the book?
I can go first. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. Fantasy and books with like magical systems aren't usually my favorite. So this is definitely a high rating for me for this kind of genre. And yeah, I thought it was really good.
Okay.
I rated it more 4.5. I am a big fantasy reader, and when I picked up Elatsoe, I was on a YA hiatus, I guess. Like, there was nothing that was really working for me in the young adult space at that time, and Elatsoe kind of brought me back to those books. So I really loved it. I fell in love with Darcie's work, with her short stories before I ever picked up Elatsoe. And I read Elatsoe and I was gone, completely gone.
Aww.
So 4.5 stars for me.
That's nice. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The beginning part, like the first 200 pages, were a 3 for me. And then at the end, I was really enjoying it. So it might have been a 6 out of 5 stars, the ending. So I balanced it out for a 4. And people, Rogier gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, which is also very high rating. I'm not surprised because it's a good book. And people are saying hi. If people watching would also like to tell us their ratings.
Oh, I see Moria in the chat. Hello. She's the one who gave me my copy of Elatsoe, so thank you.
Oh, okay. Is it Mo? This one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Hi.
Melon says, I was debating between a 4 or 5 stars, so I gave it 5 stars. Agree with Nena on that ending.
Such a good ending.
Such a good ending, I know. So before we start, I don't know if we can kind of split it up between a non-spoilery discussion and at the end spoilery. I don't know how that goes.
No, that works. I've done that before for books.
And Marie gave it a 4.5 stars. I'm not surprised. So I wanted to, if you haven't read the book yet, but you're interested in it, I wanted to tell you the trigger warnings for it. There's a car crash, death of a family, murder, gore, racism, genocide, racism specifically towards indigenous people, and death of a pet, but the pet is not, like, he comes back as a ghost, so it's not that that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we could start with, who were your favorite characters? Elisa, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So I actually really loved Elatsoe as a main character. I feel like I'm usually the kind of person who likes the side characters, but I feel like Elatsoe was so intelligent and I loved her personality and she really stuck out to me. And Kirby, of course, the dog.
Yes, Kirby was the best.
So for me, I I would say Elatsoe, but just to vary things a little, I think I'll go with Trevor. Like, I loved him as the anti-hero character.
Mhm.
It was a very interestingly done character, very interestingly done motivations, especially when he comes and tries to take over his son. Right before the whole showdown at the end, he comes and tries to get his son to get him back to the living world. I don't know if you guys remember that section.
He tries to go to the living world via his son. Do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not a non-spoilery discussion. Just a heads up. It would be difficult to do that, right?
Yeah,
I don't think I'm able to do that.
But no, I thought he was a really well fleshed out character for being dead and for as little screen time as he had. But that aside, personally, I thought one of the strengths of this book was that all the characters were really well done. Like, even the ones who appeared for just tiny moments, like Ronnie and the rest of the the starting lineup at the end, and Aunt Belle, who are all like throwaway characters who appear for just a moment or two here and there. But I really loved them because they still felt kind of fleshed out.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with Trevor, you kind of get to meet him via those dreams and you care about him, but you also, I don't know if anybody felt it coming that he was gonna return as a ghost. I kind of had a feeling. But you know that there's this talk about how ghosts are evil. I like that it was established that it wasn't truly Trevor, that he was like, I am not him, I am his pain, kind of. I don't know how to end that sentence, but yeah, his grief of himself and the hurt he felt kind of villainized. Yeah, and so you care about him, and you know it's not truly him, but you also understand him. Like, he had a good reason to come back because he's not truly the bad guy. Yeah, my favorite was Jay. He was just so funny and so nice. Yeah, and I like that he was a cheerleader. It was kind of his superpower that he was hoisting Ellie up and stuff. Yeah.
I also not in the sense that I liked him, but I appreciated the doctor as a character. I mean, I hated him, but I feel like that's what made him such a good character because, like, you could see why everyone in the town would trust him and like admire his practices, but you can also see the side that Elatsoe is seeing, why he is taking advantage of his powers, and I just thought that was a really, really well done.
Yeah, because you kind of he has this, as a villain, he has a history, he has power, and he has mystery too. And I think that those three characteristics make a really good villain.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was another thing. Like I said, I think the characters in general were really well done. Like, even with the villains, there was the doctor, and then there was the whole psychic who appears for a second, and when Elatsoe is trying to figure out what happened with Trevor's death, right at the start, the TV psychic. So even the negative characters were really interestingly thought out. Another character who was kind of negative but also well done was right at the ending with the whole big showdown where Ellie tries to do her mom's trick, where she tells the vampire, I'm Lepin Apache and you're not welcome here. And the vampire says, well, I was born 200 years ago and I'm Lepin too. So even though I gave up my name and my culture and whatnot, the fact that I was born here means that you don't have any power over me. So even though these were like tiny, tiny characters in the greater scheme of the novel, they were just so well done.
Yeah. Did you feel like the Chloe, I think was her name, the fake psychic?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Mhm.
Because I felt like, oh, she's lying. Like Abe kind of hired her or something because he's so connected. Did anybody else feel that way?
Yeah, and also when I heard that she was from like a reality TV show, I just knew it could not be true because reality TV show never goes well.
No. But then I like that there was a real psychic, you know, because in this world, lots of kind of fairy tales, and I'm not saying that psychics aren't real, but in this world, they're like mythical creatures are sure to be real. So I like that there are fake ones or people who still lie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good detail.
And I'm going to go through the book, through my notes, just to check. Do you have any favorite topics that were discussed? If that makes sense.
No, that does.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I'll go first if that's good with you, Elise.
Yeah. No, go for it. I'm still thinking.
I think in general I really like the magic system. One thing I found with fantasy YA and fantasy books in general is that it's so difficult to find something that has a magic system that's completely unique. Like, usually with YA books, I can kind of see where pieces have been inspired from, even if they're new and differently done. I can see, the inspirations from a Percy Jackson or a Lord of the Rings or what have you. But Elatsoe just felt completely new and completely different. And I really like that.
Which is funny because... go ahead.
No, the magic system really intrigued me.
Yeah. Which is funny because vampires exist, or those... it's not like an original, but she put an original spin on it. Just like the science aspect of the magic, that when there are... there can be complications when you travel via fairy rings. But what's it called? Fairy circle?
I think it was fairy circle.
Fairy ring.
Or ring. Now I'm confused too.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm gonna just check that. I think that's the advantage of having the EPUB with me. So here we go. Fairy rings, right?
Yeah, fairy rings. Okay. Because it's not original in a sense of, because, just like Will-O-the-Wisp and vampires. And I don't know, I've never heard of the animal people, like the coyote things, but I'm sure that's also taken from like a fairy tale.
Yeah, I
but
believe
she put her original spin on it, which I liked.
Yeah.
What you
I
just say?
think the animal people are supposed to be indigenous mythology. Like, from what I know of indigenous Native American myth, like coyotes is a major part in it. So I think it's possible that she's taken that aspect of Native American myth and given it a spin. But no, I think what you're saying about science and the magic system interacting is really kind of true. Because the other thing that she does, even though it's just one book so far, it's not like a series or anything, is that there's a sense that the magic system has an effect on the rest of the world. Like the fairy ring travel being kind of curtailed by the government. Like only certain people can travel by fairy rings, and you need to have the right kind of passes and allowances. I know it's really well done. Like, even though it's just one book, it feels like the rest of the world is there.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because with a lot of fantasy books, it feels kind of isolated, that you only hear about a certain part of the world, especially fantasy books set in this world, where you only hear about America or wherever the book is set in. And this felt really big because she included other cultures and other myths, and also talked about the fairy rigs, how that affected and was by the government.
Yeah.
My words don't come out.
That's okay.
So somebody says, this is kind of a small detail, but I really like how Jay was a cheerleader, but also not gay, because I feel like you don't really see that. He wasn't explicitly gay, but his sexuality wasn't mentioned, so.
I think so. I mean, we do know that he dates women.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a mention.
Because he had,
that he
right,
has a girlfriend.
Hard.
Had a girlfriend.
That's true.
I mean, he could be bi or some other form of queer, I guess, but we do know he dates women at the very least.
But I can understand why you'd appreciate that in the book, because stereotypes aren't always nice to read about. And then Helen, go away, because we're spoiling you. I haven't read the book yet, but my copy is on hold in the library. Well, go read it. The magic in Elatsoe was novelly mundane, like it was just kind of there and part of the world, the same way that other normal stuff like cars and computers exist. I like that. It was explained, which I appreciated, so it didn't feel like, you wouldn't explain how a car worked. So it wasn't that mundane, because she still explained it, but it was like super normal, and I really like that. Because Julia is also spoiling herself. But thank you for watching. I'm glad there are people watching. I was scared I was going to be alone with these two. Not that would have been bad. That sounded super bad.
Not enough.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing about the plot? Did we already discuss this? I don't know.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, this, I guess, doesn't answer the question at all, because this is just kind of a minor detail. But something I was thinking about is how, so I guess it's more about the last question, but this book is like in the contemporary world, even with all the magic and stuff. But I also like that there was little details that reminded you of contemporary problems beyond magic and the whole murder thing she was dealing with. Like, for example, there was the scene where I think she was at the museum in the scene, and she was basically getting followed around by the employee, because the employee assumed that Elatsoe was going to steal based on just what she looked like and her perceived identity. And again, like, that wasn't a main point in the plot, but I did appreciate seeing that perspective of what it's like being an Indigenous person in the contemporary world and being stereotyped and not trusted.
I did read that as a main point of the plot, because even though it was kind of in the beginning small, at the end you kind of figure out that because she said, like, oh, there are brown and black people in the towns around Willoughby, but in the town there are only white people. Why is that? And then at the end you realize that Abe can take a person's injury and put it in somebody else's. So I think he
actually
does it with people of color, which was like, it didn't click right away, but at the end it was like, wait.
Yeah.
And I think it was also interesting bringing that up, that just because it's a fantasy world, it doesn't mean that bad stuff didn't happen. Like, from what I can figure out from the book's history, everything that happened in real life happened. It's a reflection of what real life was, just with magic. So it's awful, but at the same time, I appreciate that there was no attempt to kind of say, if there's magic, then everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe I read it initially in September when it originally released, and then I reread it just a while back, and I reread it after watching Bridgerton, and Bridgerton had that section in which it was like a king fell in love with a black woman, and suddenly there's no more racism. And
Wait, what show? A show or a movie?
Bridgerton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So there's a bit in Bridgerton where they try to explain why characters who were white in the books are also black and biracial in the TV show. And it kind of goes like a king fell in love with a black woman and therefore no more racism. And that kind of ticked me off because obviously that's not how racism works. So I appreciated the contrast in Elatsoe where, you have magic and you have this system of fantasy, and that doesn't stop bad things from happening.
Yeah.
Bad things happen. Yeah.
The town Willoughby had all of these mushrooms that were used that are mainly found in those fairy rings, and that's why the town can move places. So because of that power, they don't suffer their own consequences, which I thought was a really cool, not cool, like that wouldn't be cool, but a cool aspect on the power that Abe and the town has, because they don't have consequences, And what did you think about Teddy Roosevelt being name dropped?
That was interesting. I wasn't expecting it.
Me too. I was like,
I wasn't expecting it, but at the same time, fair. I mean, I think the difference is kind of stark, where you have this indigenous heroine, and like you mentioned, Nene, it's a town of white, wealthy people who've been getting away with not having to face the consequences for a couple hundred odd years. And it makes sense, doesn't it, that you put a politician in the middle of it and he gets away with not having to face the consequences, and that's excused. I mean, in some ways, it makes sense. Where, if you think about it, where would the most powerful politicians in a country, any country, and I don't want to generalize this as being the US, be? Would they be on the side of the plucky teenage indigenous heroine, or the town that's been getting away without having to face their consequences for a couple hundred years because they're rich and powerful?
Yeah, I thought it was funny that his leg was eaten by a bear, and because the teddy bear was named after him. But then I think it was the fact that because Teddy Roosevelt was anti-indigenous, saying that the only good Indians are dead ones. And I think that it was put in there because there was kind of the message of a message of the book that these people don't value indigenous people's lives. And Teddy was one of them. And, and kind of puts in perspective like how big that is. I don't know if that makes sense because, Teddy Roosevelt is a president. And when he says that and he's a president, like, how is that possible? I mean, I know why that's possible, but I think that's why it was written in there.
I think that's a good point. Oh, sorry. You can go.
Sorry. Go ahead. What I was thinking is it makes complete sense. Like, this reminds me of in the middle of when the BLM protests were happening and the statues were being torn down. There was one, I believe, in front of the New York Public Library of Teddy Roosevelt and two Indian men, I believe, two Native American men, and it was. I could be getting the statue completely wrong, but from what I remember, because it was being torn down as well, it was basically the two of them kind of holding him up in a subservient position, and there was quite a big outcry over it for like a couple of days, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, that it's also a president with anti-Native American history. It's not just a random president plucked
Yeah.
from, these are the presidents, let me just pick a famous sounding one.
Yeah, I think it was deliberate that he was put in, because it was put in the book. Ellie said that. Oh, yeah, I think Vivian, like, he was a nice guy, which I think people think that Teddy was a nice guy, but obviously not. Vivian herself says, "Oh yeah, he was a nice guy," and then Ellie said, "Do you not remember the anti-Indigenous things he said?"
Yeah,
which I think a lot of people ignore.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to bring up, because I feel like that was also brought up because it shows how your reputation is limited when you die, and it depends on who's creating that narrative. So I'm sure there's many Indigenous people who would not be framing Teddy Roosevelt as a nice guy, but he's already dead, so we don't know him. So we're stuck with whatever narrative has been passed down, and the narrative that has been passed down is this squeaky clean kind of white version where he was, again, a nice guy, and that totally erases all of the crimes he's committed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Someone says, "I love Elatsoe. It's such an original take on supernatural fiction. I especially like the ghost dog. Yeah, the Kirby is amazing." I like that Jay said, like, we're Kirby's sidekicks, you know? I love how the stories about sixth grade were tied into specific scenes, the river scene, for example. Yeah, I was confused at the beginning because there are a lot of dream sequences, and then they were talking about sixth grade, and I had trouble knowing when something was a story from the past or when something was happening or something was a dream. But eventually it kind of came together. But what was the river scene? I don't remember
now. I was thinking, at first I thought, well, there was one scene I thought it was like with the ocean, with all the creatures coming alive.
Yeah.
Unless that is not the scene you're talking about.
Well, that's they say a river scene, but
we all forgot.
It wasn't a river. I don't know. I might be remembering it wrong. That was really cool.
Yeah, two of us should finish this book today. We can't remember.
No, but when she was in the park and she went to the underworld, that was really cool.
Yeah, I really love the imagery, the description of the writing in that part. There's some parts where I felt like the writing was a little hard to follow, but I really liked that scene.
Yeah. Okay, I think they kind of went off theme for the sake of a happy ending at the end, because Abe's privilege lets him get away with murder. I'm kind of skeptical that Ellie get away with killing Abe. Okay.
I think that's interesting, but at the same time, here's the challenge. Abe didn't die. There was no dead body. I mean, we know he died. We know they went to the underworld and she kind of just left him there to be dealt with by his victims. But in the real world, from what I understand, and again, it's been a month since my last reread, so it could be wrong. But from what I remember, there was no body as such. And so you have two kind of sides to it. Ellie's side, like her mom, the Ronnie and her friends, and Jay and whatnot, who are obviously not going to go off and find a cop and say, "Hey, our friend slash daughter kind of killed someone."
No, but the townspeople.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, right? What are the townspeople going to say? Are you going to go to a cop and say, "Hey, this chick kind of just killed someone," and the cop will say, "Okay, there's no body. Where's the proof?" I mean, even the most corrupt cops, how do you explain away the lack of a body? And how do you then, if you're going to have to explain she took him into the underworld, you're going to have to explain the background, right? You're going to have to explain that he's been transferring injuries and Trevor died, and Trevor's death was because of Abe Allerton, and that kind of messes things up for the townspeople as well.
But I think the townspeople, there are cops there too, and I think with like family maybe, and the vampires, because there were leftover vampires, right?
Yeah, but the vampires
maybe they were want to seek revenge, which I think maybe if there's a second book.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the section right at the end, right, where she gets the mysterious letter that goes, "Abe Allerton's not the only wizard who's cuckoo and kind of not all there," right? And I think that's an interesting part that could be explored. Like, if he's not the only one, maybe he's not the only one in Willowsby either, right? So, like, if he's not, and I don't think he is. I mean,
and his son is like 10. I think he might grow up and seek vengeance.
Exactly, and the rest of his minions were getting ready to move to town when she dragged him into the underworld.
Yeah.
So clearly they have some kind of magical powers too, even if they aren't as strong as the Doctor was. So, this isn't a town that's kind of left without any magic whatsoever, which is so self-destructive that they're willing to go and say, "Hey, here are the bad things we did, and that's why she killed this guy. And we're willing to we're willing to risk the chance of going to prison, because even with the most corrupt, you still have the risk that you get a judge who's not corrupt, right?" So I don't think they're willing to risk their lives being destroyed just to take vengeance over a guy who's already dead.
And the townspeople, they didn't really come to his defense when Trevor tried to kill somebody. His son, was it? I don't remember. Trevor tried to kill somebody, and the townspeople just like,
okay, cool, right. See, I think that's the thing, right? That's the contrast between Ellie's friends and family and Willoughby, where the ties that bind Willoughby together are more I'm not getting the word precisely, but they're more self-serving, exactly. Versus Ellie's relationship with her friends and family, where it's bonds of love.
Yeah. By the way, the river scene, Melon meant where Ellie in the beginning falls into the river with Jay and she's swimming when it cuts away to a story about 6th grade animals. So yeah, I think that was confusing for me. What was there?
Oh no, we've lost our host.
Yeah. I'm not sure how this is. Okay, she's gonna pop back.
Sure she'll show up again.
Yeah,
there we go.
I swiped. Something happened. Okay.
But no, yeah, I mean, if we're talking the river scene, I think that's the other interesting bit.
Go away. Thank you for supporting me, but you can leave now.
I think that's the other interesting thing about the magic system is the way it's kind of grounded in myth, like, and Native American myth specifically. I mean, again, we don't really see much of it because it is just the one book, but it seems to take into account all these different belief systems and not just the one. Like, I keep on going back to something like even say a Percy Jackson, which is so beautifully done. But in the end, unless you're putting all of Riordan's books together as one ginormous universe, it only really takes into account the Greek gods and Norse gods as existing at the same time. Because his Egyptian series is by and large completely separate from the combination of his Norse and Greek series and Roman series that he does. Whereas Elatsoe has these tiny little bits and pieces that seem to imply there's like the belief systems of everything that's ever existed. So you have the Native American myths that Ellie has grown up with as real and as the story she's been told about sixth grade. And you have the fairy and the fairy rings and the fae that Jay's related to. You have the vampires, which is a whole other system of mythology and of fairy tales. It's Eastern European. And yeah, you have all of these belief systems that kind of coexist. And it feels in an essence that if you believe it, you make it real.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of having it limited to the one or two systems that the author feels comfortable writing. So no one feels left out is, I think, just because you don't know anything about a particular belief system, you can still imagine yourself being part of the wider world.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. And if you had any mythical creature that you could, if you wanted to, wait, I have this written down. I can't word it right now. What's a mythical power or creature you'd like to be real? That's my question.
It's a good one. I actually kind of, not to be basic and go off the main character, but I really liked Elatsoe's power, being able to like talk with ghosts, resurrect ghosts. Because in Percy Jackson, which I grew up really loving, my favorite character was always Nico and Hazel, and they were both in the underworld. And Nico, there was a couple of times where he was resurrecting armies of the dead, and that kind of just reminded me of Elatsoe. So that was cool to see. I feel like that would be maybe not fun, but I feel like
you can control it.
Yeah, I feel like depending on what culture you come from, death is seen as very permanent. So the ability to make that not permanent, I feel like that would be both helpful and maybe like comforting in a way.
Do you have anything, Rishika?
I'm thinking, what sort of power would I bring to life? I don't know, because what I found, again, another thing, and I keep on saying I really liked this, I just kind of like the book as a whole, but what I found was really interesting is that she took this power, which is talking to ghosts and talking to dead people, and it's made into something that I could never have thought it'd be. Like, it goes beyond just being able to see a dead person and talk to them. It becomes like an offensive power. I say offensive, like you can use it to attack, not like the bad offensive. But yeah, it becomes something that you can use on the attack as well. It's not as passive as you might think it to be. I mean, if you just say, the main character can talk to ghosts, it just kind of sounds like, oh, she can talk to ghosts. Great.
Yeah, but she can actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I can say, I think what struck me about this is the way that Darcie takes a single power that you might not think of as being particularly noteworthy and makes it something special.
Yeah.
So given that sense, I'm not particularly sure. I don't know, um maybe something to do with just me and like the ability to be more extroverted. I don't know. Like,
Oh,
I'd
okay.
love to be able to talk to people more, which
Well,
sounds really
well,
weird.
if
Yeah,
you can talk to ghosts, maybe that's a good practice thing.
yeah, that would work, I guess.
Okay, I'd like gnomes to be real because I love gnomes.
I love that.
That's adorable.
What did you think about the illustrations in the books? In the book, there aren't several.
I only got to see a couple of them because I was struggling at first, so I ended up listening to the audiobook at first. But then later on, when I picked up the book again, I really loved the illustrations. I thought they were really pretty. I also really loved the illustrations on the cover.
Mhm.
I feel like that's what drew me to the book because I didn't even know what the book was about. I just looked at the cover and I was like, I gotta read this.
Me too. But even I had no idea that there was like a kind of murder mystery.
Yeah, me either. I wasn't expecting it to be a mystery at all, but it was definitely a mystery.
Yeah.
No, for me, so I read the ebook, but
All right.
the the illustrations kind of come through really well in the ebook as well. Like the quality is there. It's not the same as the printed book, of course. It's never going to be. But that aside, I really, really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed how you don't quite realize that the illustrations tie into the story at first.
Yeah.
The chapter bits, like the chapter headings, they're all about Sixth Grade and her dogs. And then as you start reading, you realize they do tie into the story. So I really enjoyed that.
I especially liked in the scene where she goes to the underworld with the animals. There's a sperm whale, which is my favorite whale. They're adorable. And yeah, I love this one.
I love that.
Because that was kind of one of the few that really tied into the story itself. So yeah. By the way, I wanted to say how much I liked that they kept talking about Icarus. I don't know how to pronounce it. Icarus? Icarus? How do you pronounce that, Elise?
In my American accent, I just say Icarus, but
Icarus. Okay.
I like your way better.
Yeah, I think it's Dutch. It's Icarus or something.
I like that a lot better.
But Icarus. Wait, I've forgotten already.
That's okay. Say it however. We know what you're talking about.
But they kept saying like, "Have you heard the story about Icarus and the sun?" And it just they kept bringing it up. It was so funny to me because with the Vivian really liked telling stories, which you see in Ellie how much she knows about sixth grade. I think she grew up with the stories because of her mom, and I really liked that was just shown in Ellie's personality because she kept saying like, "Be warn yourself because of Icarus and warn yourself because of something else," and it's just I don't know. I really feel like that part of her really rounded her out as a character because she felt so real to me, especially because I don't know, it was just so well written that and then Vivian at the end when she was trying to summon Miss Mammoth, she kept telling this story, this really long story, which kind of clicked something for me, like, oh, this is why Ellie is this way because of her mom. Because I really like that.
Yeah, they were definitely very three-dimensional characters.
Yeah,
just full personalities, and you really got to see different sides to it.
So what did you think about the asexual representation?
I loved it. First off, I thought that it was great that they used the word asexual on Paige It wasn't just something you were supposed to interpret. Like, it was a confirmed fact in the book. But also, I haven't read many books with asexuality representation that didn't at least attempt to delve into romance or just think about romance, consider it in some way. And I really liked that Ellie said.
Elatsoe is also a romantic.
Yeah.
Which isn't
So,
in the book.
yeah. So it's not specified, like it's not spelled out as clearly as the fact that she's ace is, but I know Darcie Little Badger has said, like she's confirmed word of God that Elatsoe is aromantic, and there's a quote that kind of goes into it. If you just give me a tiny second to pull it up. Here we go. As much as Ellie loathed romantic relationship talk, she'd never been on a date, didn't plan to go on a date, and didn't know how to counsel or console friends. Thing. She couldn't leave a puppy in the rain. I mean, there's the whole puppy part, but there's also the bit where she says that, it's not just asexuality, it's not being into romantic relationships either.
Yeah.
I also like that it wasn't really portrayed as a struggle for Ellie, which is a completely valid experience. I know a lot of people struggle to come to terms with how they identify, but it is refreshing to see someone who just says, yeah, this is me. And I feel like we need more of that representation, because I feel like that's how we lessen the idea of struggle. We normalize it.
No, I thought it was great. I agree with what you're saying, Elise, that it's not just the ace representation, it's the aro representation as well. Like, even the pieces that I've read that kind of go into, oh, I'm ace, but I want a romantic relationship, which is completely valid. Like, I'm on the spectrum. I'm not on the aro spectrum at all. So it's completely valid that you might be ace and still want a romantic relationship. But I don't really recall seeing anything that does both, or specifically that does an aro character at all. Like, I feel, and I could be wrong, maybe it's just a question of the books I've been exposed to, but I just feel that there's so much more in terms of asexuality out there than there is in terms of aromanticism.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's easier for authors to write, publishers to publish, and readers to read books about teenagers who aren't interested in sex because of the whole, they're too young for it, so we can explain it away. Then it is to understand the whole. There are people who aren't interested in romance out of a lack, like beyond, just not being interested in sex. It goes on to not being interested in romance as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the asexuality, I like that it was written, that the term asexual was written in the book. And kind of from the beginning, you knew that she wasn't interested. And then in the middle, I think the Rani, was it? Jay's sister said it. I get that you're asexual and all. Yeah. So it was just this random thing, and it wasn't a big plot, which I like it if books are about asexuality. I like it if there aren't, but if it... Like, I read this book that a lot of people, when you ask what's your favorite asexual book, they say Every Heart a Doorway, which I think it's mentioned once or something, and it's not a big thing, but I don't say that it's like a super... My point is, I like that this isn't about asexuality, but it's still very prevalent because it's mentioned several times. It's not just mentioned once. That's my point.
And I guess I kind of already mentioned this, but I really liked that no one really questioned it because, again, in real life, I'm sure there's many people who are going to question it, which is an unfortunate fact, but it's just relieving not to hear that experience. Because I read one Ace book that I really didn't like. I forgot what it's called, Tash Hart's Tolstoy, maybe. That one. I don't know. I think there was definitely some valid points in that book, but I just remember like a lot of discussions of, oh, you're broken or miscommunication. And there's one part where like the boyfriend was totally trying to take advantage of the Ace main character. And again, maybe that happens in real life, but sometimes you just don't want to hear about that. And when asexuality is already a very difficult representation to find in literature, I don't know. Sometimes you just need books that are comforting and validate your identity without highlighting all the negative things that you already know exist.
I think of like in terms of television, Schitt's Creek, where Dan Levy specifically and intentionally said, you know, I know homophobia is a thing that exists, but I'm not writing it in my TV show. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that kind of, I don't know if that was like a intentional thing in Elatsoe, but it feels like similar energy where it's like, I know aphobia is a thing that exists. I just don't want to write it in my fantasy world.
Yeah. That makes sense.
If you had a buddy that was a ghost, an animal ghost, what kind of animal would it be? Would you want it to be? I mean, would you want a dog or another one?
So I would. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
There's a lag. We keep talking over each other.
No, you go ahead, Elise.
Okay. Honestly, I have a dog. She's a Shih Tzu. I've had her since I was 10 years old. She's almost 10 now. So I feel like I'd like her as a ghost too later on in life. But if I had to choose a different animal, I feel like something like big would be cool. Like my dog's like a little. I feel like if I had like a.
You're making me tear up just for saying that.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to. I think about this sometimes. I feel like if I had like a, I don't know, like a huge rhinoceros or something by me, I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, the mammoth was awesome.
Yeah, I really loved
the mammoth was great. No, so I'm terrified of dogs in life. Like in real life, I can't. Like I'm scared. Like I'll look at your dog's photos and I'll smile over how cute they are, and I do think they're cute as long as it's in like photographs and not in real life. So I think maybe I could attempt with a ghost dog where I don't have to kind of worry about being bitten.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm terrified of dogs. Like, don't do animals much in real life.
The ghost dog was able to bite Abe, so maybe not.
I mean, we can excuse that by saying he can only bite people who Ellie tells him to.
Yeah.
Let's just excuse that away.
No, that's good. That's a good part. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, Melon.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be so sad.
Please give your dog an extra hug from me too.
Melon's dog's their profile photo.
Ooh,
a ghost snake, that would really be cool. Especially like an albino ghost, and they look even cooler.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. I love snakes.
I'm thinking now like a prehistoric ghost snake, like really huge ones. So like Ellie saw all the dead animals, like maybe like a huge, you know, they have like all the mega animals of the past. I'm sure there were like huge snakes in the past too, like ginormous ones that don't exist anymore. So I'm thinking of like a huge ghost snake.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I would want a chameleon.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
How cool would that be?
I love
and
that.
what color would they turn? No, I know that it's not every chameleon can turn the colors that they are surrounded with. No, but I would love to have a chameleon or a bearded dragon, but because they need to eat insects, I don't want to see them eat animals. So
yeah,
I don't want to see that.
Fair.
And you would keep the insects in the fridge, and I don't know. I think that's so sad. Not that I think that they don't deserve food. I wouldn't be able to give that to them.
Yeah.
No, it's fair. It's fair. Like maybe actually this makes me think. So I just read River of Teeth. I don't know if either of you have heard of it. River of Teeth. It's by Sarah Gailey about basically hippos.
Feels so familiar.
So, and I'm thinking about like a ghost hippo is where I'm going with this. Like one of yeah.
A ghost that would be cool. They're the author of Upright Women Wanted, which I like.
That's why it sounds so familiar. Yeah. Haven't read any other books besides that one though.
Yeah, and Magic for Liars is also a title that seems familiar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, but like I'm thinking ghost hippos now. So I guess I would like live near swamps or something for that to work out.
Swans?
Swamps? Like the
like
river?
The bird?
No. Swamp? Like.
So basically, you would like Elatsoe's power because you have too many animals right now.
No, I'm thinking. Just like keep on. I can't do animals in real life. Like I'm a city girl at heart. So like ghost animals would be cool where I wouldn't have to like deal with the reality.
Yeah.
Like the other I'm thinking like even if I could deal with like real animals, I'd have to deal with their bodily stuff. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, with dogs, I love looking at the pictures and, I'll give them a cuddle, but I don't like texture and smells. So like dogs, they smell and they lick you and I just cannot. No. Like cats, they will not touch you if you don't want to be touched, just like you will not touch cats if you want to be touched, Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I'm making this in a dog-cat conversation. This is random. But like dogs, they will cuddle when you don't want to cuddle. So. A ghost dog would be better than a real one. No offense to the real ones.
I guess. Alternatively, we could just go prehistoric and say like dinosaurs.
Yeah, no, actually, like the mammoth. Or, yeah, there are definitely some cool dinosaurs. Yeah. Like a tortoise would also be cool, but that might be because I love tortoises. So. And they get old in age anyways. Yeah. So it might be too greedy right now. Do you have any favorite quotes or passages? I don't know if you remember any or if you wrote any down.
So I have a couple that I noted down for my review on Goodreads. So there's one that I really liked. That's about the bit where she fights with the leash. The lick, I'm not sure. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
Okay, I seem to have lost it. Sorry. Here we go. It should have been a proud moment, but Ellie also felt profoundly sad. The leash was the last of its kind. The monsters of her ancestors had been replaced by different threats. I thought that was really... I mean, it's just a tiny line about this monster that she fought with Trevor that doesn't really play much into the main plot of the book. But I loved it because it was so much about who she is. and like how her view of the world is shaped, like her history, her everything
Yeah.
being kind of encapsulated in this one monster that she has to defeat because it's not the greatest of things. But at the same time, it's also a sad moment because there's no more monsters like it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is. There were lots of little sentences that were really beautiful. But one that wasn't beautiful but was funny was, if you have a son someday, this is Ellie talking to Jay, if you have a son someday, he can have the name James Simpson, which I thought was the funniest thing. Oh, here, Val says, wasn't the underworld a vast and frightening place? Wasn't the earth vast and frightening too? Yes, that's
a really good one.
That's really good.
Now I wish I wrote down some quotes.
Yeah, there were a few. I didn't write anything down besides the funny one, but there were some beautiful ones. Some quotes that just made you think, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't like the writing style overall, but just some sentences were like really good. Yeah. So it's been an hour, so I think we're gonna wrap it up. Are there any things you wanted to say about the book, about yourself?
Overall, I was pretty impressed. I had a slight fear that I wasn't going to like it when I started it because it just was a little confusing to me and I didn't really like writing style, but ending was so good. I hope there's another book.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to see another book as well. I jumped into it kind of going off the fact that I'd loved Darcie's other stuff. I didn't really look at the blurb all that much. Honestly, like the blurb didn't catch me as much as her other work did. So I loved it. I'm really glad I took the leap into something, even though the blurb didn't kind of speak to me initially. And I can't wait for more of Darcie's work and more work, hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed from this universe. Like, either or works.
Yeah, and that was it, I guess. So Elise has a channel called The Petite Punk, and Rish has an Instagram, right, called Tasting Pages. I haven't linked them down below, I think, but yeah, you can go check them out. Thank you so much for watching. The book that we'll be reading in March and April is Summerbird Blue by Akemi Dawn Bowman. I hope that you will read it with me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching again. Thank you to Elise and Rishika for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for hosting so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.